I just saw the final version of The Flash. Does this movie live up to the hype? Yes, it does. It's quickly becoming one of my favorite DC movies. Let's talk about it now. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watcher Pass. Today I'm going to do a Flash review on The Flash, which is coming to theaters on June 16, 2023. The Flash is, of course, the newest movie in the DC universe, which has not been having the best of luck recently. DC had Black Adam, DC had Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Neither of those did pretty well. But remember a little bit ago, they had Suicide Squad, which was really, really good. So maybe they're on an upward swing. Are they? Well, my hot take is The Flash is really good. I loved it. It is one of my favorite DC movies. It's definitely my favorite DC movie that's been released in, I don't know, what, the last like 3-4 years. But on top of that, it is just a really good movie. It's really fun. It's entertaining. My hot take is I definitely think you should watch it. It's the best DC movie in a while, and it mixes many concepts that have become kind of commonplace in the Marvel movies. It's kind of their stab at some of the things that have been percolating in the Marvelverse, but it also has plenty of humor, heart, and action. I really liked it. I liked it from start to finish. So I'm going to tell you a little about the film, a few things I like, a few things I didn't like, and go into the ending. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the ending section. If you don't want to know what happens, I would turn off when I get there. But don't worry, before that, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler-free. When I get to those spoilers, I will let you know. So in The Flash, you have Barry Allen doing the superhero thing, but he feels, I don't know, kind of like a third wheel. You've always got Superman, you've got Batman, and then if they're not available and a few others aren't available, they're calling The Flash. And he is trying to be a superhero, but also live his life, and neither of those are really coming together. But he discovers a new power that he has that he probably shouldn't utilize, but he does. But that causes a ripple effect that neither he or anyone else could imagine. So, things I liked about this movie. The first, the humor. This is a very funny movie, and you get that from the very start. Look, I like Ezra Miller a lot, despite all the other stuff. They are phenomenal in this film. They are funny. They are personable. They are really kind of the main draw of this movie. The way that Ezra Miller does the Flash in this film is just fantastic. I just can't say enough about it. I like the way that they have both serious and humorous roles, and they kind of balance it perfectly. It's really just fun to see all around. There is also plenty of like funny situations. There's funny coincidences that happen as they go deeper and deeper into the consequences of this power that the Flash uses. And the second thing I loved, the cast. Again, Ezra Miller is kind of like the mainstay in this, but you do have a lot of really fun cameos. You have a lot of characters that make their appearances from the DC universe, and it is just a phenomenal overall cast that really gives this movie an epic feel. You get some really big cameos, you get some big characters coming back. It is definitely a fun film, and all of them do a really good job, especially Ezra Miller. They have a wide range of things they have to do, from funny to emotional, and they do it all very well. The third thing I liked is the music. Like, not only does it have a nice kind of like irreverent, upbeat soundtrack at the start, but when you do start to get into some of the nostalgia aspects or some of the like cameos, music that references those cameos and that nostalgia plays as well, and it is really fun. Like, there was definitely one scene where some music came on that made me just like audibly gasp at how happy I was. I was smiling from ear to ear, and that is definitely a fun feeling to have, and definitely a fun surprise. The fourth thing I liked, look, you kind of get that from some of the trailers and some of the news about this film, but there's plenty of callbacks and references, and they are really nice. You got some really good like references to classic movies. You've got some references to pop culture that are very clever in this film that I love, but the main draw, the main kind of fun is the references to classic DC movies and DC properties, and those are here in spades. And the last thing I liked the heart. Like, at the core of this movie, there's an emotional conflict that has to happen that will decide the fate of many of the characters, and it is really, really well done. I really like the buildup. I like kind of how they explored it. And when it actually does happen, it is a very, very emotional moment, a very emotional scene. And it's kind of a nice culmination of everything that's happened in this film. So overall, I think it's a great movie. So that being said, things I didn't love as much. It's really only one thing. The CG. The CG is heavy in this film, and I'm not sure if that's because of the screener or if that's how it's going to be. I kind of think it's a combination of both, because DC's always had heavy CG, but it's always been a little bit off. Like, from Aquaman to Man of Steel, it always feels not 100% natural, and in this screener you had that as well. There were some pretty interesting cameos that were, you know, CG animated. There were some pretty interesting fights that were CG animated, and they always felt a little bit off. Now, it could be the screener. They could go through and clean it up by the time of the release. The movie comes out on June 16, 2023. It is very possible they do that. But I think even if they do, something will still feel a little bit off. They heavily use CG in a lot of the things in this movie, and I think it's still going to feel a little bit off, even if they clean up some of the animation itself. It is definitely one of my pet peeves. It's definitely something that I wish they would do less of. And it definitely is something that takes away from these big, impactful fights if it looks like it is all CG. Now, like I said, we'll see. And it doesn't take away from the overall film because the film itself is very, very good. But just keep that in mind. There's going to be a heavy use of CG and there's going to be some, like, I don't know, moment-breaking aspects of that. So, that being said, The Flash is a really good movie. It's coming to theaters on June 16, 2023. Definitely think you should check it out. There's a lot of really interesting cameos. There's a lot of interesting callbacks and things like that. So you're going to want to see it early, and you're probably going to want to see it in theaters because it is definitely going to be a fun one to see with fans. Now we are moving into the spoilers, and there will be spoilers. There will be spoilers. There will be spoilers. So the central conflict in The Flash is Barry Allen is trying to live his life. He feels like kind of like a third-tier Justice League member. You know, you always call Superman first, call Batman second. If they're not available, you try Wonder Woman, you try someone else, and then you'll get the Flash. And he is doing good work, but he is just having a hard time balancing both his like personal life and his superhero life. And on top of that, there's a very big event coming up soon. His father is going up for an appeal in the murder case of his mother. Years ago, Barry was with his mother in the house. His father went out to go get some tomatoes for a recipe. While he was gone, someone, you don't know who, you don't know why, came in. You don't really know what happens because all you hear is a commotion from Barry when he comes down, but his mother gets stabbed. And the suspicion instantly turned to the father. There wasn't any sort of evidence that they could put forth to like get him out of this guilt. So he got charged with the murder and he was convicted. Now they are trying to appeal his case, and he has a hearing before the judge coming up soon. That is occupying a lot of Barry's mind. That's occupying a lot of his thoughts. And when he kind of goes back and relives this moment, he gets so upset. He just runs as fast as he can, and he ends up running faster than light and being able to go back in time. And he goes back in time and thinks, you know what, maybe I can save my mother. Maybe I can change the universe just a little bit so I don't affect too much. I'll just change a tiny bit. Now, Batman, the Ben Affleck Batman, tells him, no, don't do it. Like, essentially, you don't know what the consequences will be, and like that pain is part of what is making you who you are. But Barry's a little bit more impulsive. Barry wants to kind of see what happens. So he goes back in time to just do a little bit of a tweak. So he goes back to the supermarket when his mother is first buying ingredients for that night. And he makes sure that she gets some crushed tomatoes. He grabs a thing of tomatoes, puts it in the cart. Voila! He's in and out. No one notices. And because of this, his father doesn't have to go and get the tomatoes. And presumably that means that his mother's not going to get attacked. The person's not going to think that the house is empty, surprise them, all that stuff. Everything will work out, right? Well, Barry is running back into the present to see what happens when some like large, fast thing intercepts him and pushes him out of the timeline. And he ends up in an alternate timeline with 18-year-old Barry. But in this timeline, his mother is alive and his father's alive. So yay, everything works out. But, you know, he's in the wrong timeline. He has to kind of fix this because the circumstances that led to him getting his powers are playing out right now. It is the day that his powers came in. He was supposed to be at a lab. A lightning bolt hits the lab. It sprays lightning and chemicals over him. That's where he gets his superpowers. So he quickly tries to figure this out. He sets up the situation, and it kind of works. He gets hit with a lightning bolt, and he loses his powers, but 18-year-old him gets this lightning bolt and gets his powers. Now, because of that, you have an older, grizzled Flash who doesn't have any powers, and a younger, impulsive, happy Flash who has powers and is starting to do the whole scenario all over again. So he's learning about all the different things. He's making mistakes. But there are some other things about this world that you didn't anticipate. So shortly after the Barrys kind of switch their powers, Zod comes in and starts to kind of do the sequence that is going to lead to an assault on the Earth. Barry thinks, well, you know what, we need to get the Justice League. So he tries to find the Justice League, but this is a different universe. The Justice League doesn't seem to exist in the same way it did before. But he does realize that there is a Batman. And so he goes to find his old friend Bruce Wayne to try to convince him to help get the Justice League. Now, when he gets there, it looks a little bit different. Apparently, Batman hasn't been around for a while. And so everything is a little bit more decrepit, but they do eventually see Bruce Wayne, and it is not Ben Affleck Bruce Wayne. It is Michael Keaton Bruce Wayne. It is Michael Keaton Batman, and they go all in on the Michael Keaton Batman. It is fantastic. It's the old classic, like 1980s suit. You got the old classic Batmobile. You have the old classic Batwing. You have the like more ostentatious, I guess, like yellow black symbol. It is really great. And so they have Batman, but they don't have any of the Justice League. He tries to track down Superman, and they track Superman down to a Russian prison. They're able to break that person out, but it isn't Superman. It is Supergirl. It is Kara, who is Superman Khalil's cousin, who was sent to Earth to protect him as well. She was in this Russian facility. She was being held, but now she's escaped. So she ends up joining to kind of help fight Zod and to try to like help figure out what happened to Kal-El. So now you have a makeshift Justice League. You've got Michael Keaton Batman, you've got Supergirl, you've got a Barry with powers who's young, and you have a Barry without powers who is old. Now, Barry without powers says, you know what, I'm going to try to get my powers back. So he recreates the same experiment with the chemicals and lightning and a bat kite, which I loved. It's like a Batman symbol kite that they put up into the sky. It is ridiculous and wonderful. I love that part of it. Gets hit with lightning, does the chemicals. Does it work? You don't really know. It didn't really work. He tries to do it again, but the circuit is fried. Now, Supergirl comes back and decides that she's going to help out now. She's going to help them all. She picks up Barry, goes up into the sky. Maybe this is going to be where Barry dies, but he gets hit by lightning. This seems to jolt his powers. I don't know why, because the chemicals aren't there, but maybe they're already resident on his skin when the lightning hits. He gets hit with lightning again. He gets his powers back. So now you have double flashes. You got Super Flash, Flash 1, Flash 2, Old Flash, Young Flash, whatever you want to call it. So now the Justice League is 2 Flashes, a Batman, and a Supergirl. They go out to try to stop Zod, but in the process, during the fight, both Supergirl and Batman die. And the Barrys are like, you know what? We can try to fix this. They shoot back in time, try again. They both die again in different ways. Now, young Barry is in love with Supergirl, so he goes back again to try to save her. Doesn't work. Goes back again, doesn't work. Older Barry is kind of understanding what's happening, so he just kind of stays in the time continuum while this is happening. And eventually, as young Barry goes back and forth, he gets more and more injured, but he keeps trying. And at some point, old Barry's like, you know what, stop. Like, this is an inevitability. This is something that we can't change. They have to die. There's nothing we can do. And young Barry is like, no, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. And as he does it more and more, the kind of like the time flux thing that they're in gets more and more unstable. And you get other kind of worlds coming in that are drawn into this like time conundrum that they're making. You've got, and this is where you get some of the really great cameos. You've got some other Supermen that make an appearance. You've got like a classic black and white Superman. You've got Christopher Reeve Superman that comes in. And then the most important, you've got a strange Superman with like long hair fighting a spider. And lo and behold, you got a Nick Cage Superman. So Nick Cage famously wanted to play Superman years ago, famously had Action Comics #1 that was stolen from him. That's a great podcast, by the way. If you listen to that podcast, there's one about the whole Nick Cage heist and the craziness that happened there. Definitely listen to that. But he is famously always wanted to play Superman. I think he had a shot at Superman, but that fell through. So he finally gets it. He finally makes it into the universe as a Superman. But it's kind of this weird like monkey paw thing because he makes it in. He's part of the canon, but he gets a very quick cameo and it's all CG animated. So he's kind of in, but he's kind of not. But you know what? Hey, I'm sure he'll take it. He's finally going to be Superman. So you have all these universes like coming together in this like time rift, and they start like colliding. So potentially you're going to have these universes like collide and collapse. And that is when this entity that originally pushed Barry out of his, time warp back makes its appearance. And like I said, young Flash, every time he went through, was getting a new injury. He was getting like pieces of like kryptonite like on him, like jagged into his skin. So he had like a claw coming out of his arm. He had like something through his hand. He started to look kind of like Doomsday, like the Superman Doomsday enemy, where all these like bone things are jutting out of him. And you notice that the entity, this like thing that pushed old Barry out of the time conundrum, has similar features. He's got some some things jutting out of him. He is super fast. He seems to know what's happening. And you realize that this is young Barry after many, 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 many time loops. He's been trying to do it. He's been trying to optimize it. And he says he's almost got it. He's almost has the sequence to figure it out. But old Flash, or I guess normal age Flash, what do you want to call it, is in the way. So this Barry, because he's really trying to figure this out, he is older. He like is covered in, dust or rocks or something like that. He has a purple effect when he runs, which is great because purple's a fantastic color. But he is clearly a bad guy. He says that the older Barry is in the way and he has to take him out. So he goes to try to kill him. But this is when young Barry does the heroic thing, jumps in front, takes the attack. But this is not good for either of them because young Barry gets stabbed. Not good for him. But evil Barry is stabbing a younger version of him, which is not good for evil Barry. So it kills them both. And now older Barry is kind of left with a choice. Is he going to try to keep fixing this world? Or is he going to go back and, I guess, kind of make this world right? Which is an impossible choice because he has to basically choose whether he's going to, like, try to fix this world where his mom's alive or go back and, like, right the world that he was in, which means his mom is dead. He makes this terrible choice. He goes back in time, and this is like a really fantastic emotional scene. He like gets back to the supermarket. He hides himself up. He has a quick moment with his mom that turns into a longer one because she is just a sweet lady and she recognizes that he is in pain. And so she, not knowing who this person is, this older Barry, like talks to him, consoles him. It is a very sweet scene. Eventually, older Barry like uses his powers to put the tomatoes that he had previously put in the cart back on the shelf. So the sequence will be fixed. His mom will come home. She'll need tomatoes. Barry's dad will go out to the store, try to get them, and everything will be kind of back to normal. But that means that Barry's mom is dead. He does this. He's about to leave, and he looks over at the tomatoes, and you think that maybe something's going to happen. He gets back to the present. He goes to the hearing. Everything seems to be normal, but then you get this little thing that happens. So one of the things they were trying to prove is that his dad went to get tomatoes, so he couldn't have been the killer. Now, the surveillance footage was horribly, horribly jumbled. Bruce Wayne had used some techniques to clean it up, but when he cleaned it up the first time in the original, like, Barry's world, you couldn't see his dad's face. His dad, like, got the tomatoes, never looked up at the camera, left. That was their, like, key evidence, and it was useless. Now, this time, when he gets the tomatoes, he looks up to grab the tomatoes from the top shelf, and you're like, huh, that's interesting. It seems like when Barry, like just before Barry went back to the present, he put all the tomatoes up on the top shelf, which forces his dad to look up to grab the tomatoes and forces you to see his face, which then in his appeal allows him to finally prove that he wasn't at home, that he went to get tomatoes, and that he couldn't have killed his wife. And this doesn't mess with the timeline because this video footage was horribly degraded before this. And now it's only in the present, after they fix the footage, that they're able to see his dad's face. So Barry's mom is still dead, but his dad is not going to be in prison. So we can't tell if there's any other consequences from that decision until the very end when Barry leaves the courtroom. He calls Bruce Wayne. He says, like, hey, I fixed it. I fixed the problem. And that's when Bruce Wayne pulls up. And he gets out of the car, and Barry looks at him and says, who are you? Out of the car steps George Clooney. The George Clooney Batman is back. I guess after Barry's changed the timeline, it switched a little bit more, and now we have George Clooney Batman. So we don't see much. He kind of like, Barry's confused, and as he's looking at him, his tooth falls out. The tooth that like came out when he got hit by the lightning bolt in his past life when he was giving himself powers again. And that's it. That's the movie. And during the credits, there are a couple extra scenes. At the very start of the credits, there is a scene, the like baby saving scene from the very start, except this is from the dog's perspective. So it's a cute scene. You see the dog like falling, all these things happening around it as it's kind of looking around, trying to, get a snack, save itself, see some people. It is a fun little, like, just, I don't know, just a bright spot for the credits. It's a fun little kind of like aside, like a short film almost. That happens during the credits. And after the credits, You see Barry Allen with Aquaman. They're leaving a bar. Barry is trying to explain to him like all the craziness that happened with this multiverse, all the weird things that occurred. He's simplifying it for Aquaman, trying to make it easy, but Aquaman is drunk and doesn't really understand much. But Barry explains that like everything else is like the same, different, but the people are the same except Batman. Batman is always different in these various multiverses. He's trying to figure out why. Aquaman is trying to help, but he's also super drunk. So he eventually collapses as they're walking into a giant puddle in the New York street, which not a great place to collapse. Probably not very good. Luckily, Aquaman is a superhero, so his immune system is hopefully super as well. But he kind of passes out there. Barry's like, no, like we're so close to home. Let's get to my place. And he's like, I am home. As he's in the puddle, like surrounded by water, he gives Barry one of his Atlantean artifacts, a ring that he has, to go buy some more beer. Barry takes the ring and seems to just kind of like walk away, saying like, oh, he's fine, like he'll be okay. And that's the movie. So what does this mean? I'm not sure. One thing we do know is that if this is kind of the canon, then there must be other changes, right? If Batman is different in this universe, there must be something else that's different. We don't get enough time in it to find out what that difference is, but presumably in whatever the next movie is, there could be some differences. Maybe they'll bring back the George Clooney stuff. Maybe there will be nipples. Maybe Robin will be in it. We'll find out. We'll see what happens. But presumably there'll be something different, something that has been changed in this universe. And I don't know. Maybe they'll have more kind of like Batman crossovers. They seem to be getting everyone back together. They seem to be getting everyone like at least to make cameos. Maybe the next movie will have more of the Batman kind of like fighting it out together, kind of like how you had the two Flashes in this movie. Maybe in the future ones you'll have 3, 4 Batman. Maybe they'll have like a CG Val Kilmer. I don't know what will happen, but I'm excited to find out what it is. This definitely was a breath of fresh air and made me kind of interested in what the DC universe is going to do next. But that's The Flash. It's coming to theaters on June 16, 2023. Definitely check it out. It is really fun. It actually was a lot of fun the second time I saw it. Like it was actually easier to kind of follow everything along. The jokes are still funny. I've still laughed a lot. So it's definitely an entertaining film. It's definitely one that has that right balance of both humor and heart, of both kind of funny and feelings. It was just a really fun overall experience. So definitely check it out. And thanks so much for watching. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.